The next part of our agenda today is the chairman's speech. So again, I'd like to introduce Ken Ritucci. Ken is from Massachusetts, and he has been calling since 1975. He joined CALLERLAB in 1983. He was elected to the Board of Governors in 2010, and he became chairman in 2019. He is currently finishing his second term as our chairman. To present the long-awaited chairman's speech, I now turn it over to the CALLERLAB chairman and someone that I'm lucky to call a friend. Give a virtual round of applause again for Mr. Ken Ritucci.
All right, here I am. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. So before I begin my chairman's speech, I would like to point out the hardworking team of my executive committee who I've had the privilege of working with for 2 years in a row. It's very rare that the chairman of CALLERLAB has the privilege to be able to work with the same executive committee for his or her terms for 2 years in a row. I enjoyed this privilege. And before I begin my speech, I want to tell you a little bit more about the professionals that I call my friends who served on the EC. The home office. It'd be impossible to run this organization without the hardworking individuals in our home office. We are fortunate to have dedicated individuals who work tirelessly every day to answer calls, deal with deadlines, keep track of all the committee correspondence, the votes, the communication, et cetera, that needs to be done. I cannot thank Dana and Donna Shermer enough for all their support and wisdom when it comes to getting answers to my questions these past 2 years. Dana is a wealth of information, always reminding me and the EC of the history of motions, et cetera, that have taken place throughout the years. We're also blessed to have a new executive director, Teresa Berger. Teresa is a young, smart woman who has stepped into her new role and has provided tremendous support for the EC and the Board of Governors. Today's event could not have been done without the home office's continuous hard work in preparing this event. Teresa, Dana, Donna, Royce, and the entire staff, thank you for making my job that much easier. Let me tell you a little bit about my vice chairman, Mr. Mike Hogan. Mike was the driving force behind the outstanding marketing document that came out over a year ago. He's the driving force to make this extensive work, which has been circulated all over the world and used by many dancer organizations throughout the country. Mike is an executive in his personal job, and he brought his expertise to our EC for the past 2 years. I appreciated Mike's professional input when it came to some of the many decisions we had to make. He has been insightful and objective in his opinions when it came to CALLERLAB business. Mike is also a very successful national caller in his career. I am honored to have had Mike as my vice chair for the past 2 years. Dottie Welch. Dottie is one of the few individuals that I know who works almost around the clock on committee documents, as well as all the executive committee's motions and proposals we worked on for the past 2 years. Dottie is a professional who works methodically in everything she does. I've been very fortunate to have had her on my EC, as she would dig deep into our work and come up with the alternatives that the EC could review and ultimately agree upon. Dottie has been a leader in Canada, specifically the Nova Scotia area. She volunteers endlessly for committees and conventions throughout the years. Her work is extensive and its reach goes far beyond the EC. Dottie's wisdom and opinions were very much appreciated, and I can't thank her enough for everything she contributed on the EC. Mr. Harlan Kerr, I've been extremely fortunate to have yet another, quote, deep dive individual on my EC that likes and can successfully write clearly and coherently on the many documents, proposals, motions that we had the past 2 years. Harlan was a very successful school administrator in his career. I am honored to have had such knowledge and expertise on the EC. Like Dottie, Harlan would work tirelessly on wording or rewording the extensive work that was required. Harlan volunteered to, quote, take a stab at it and bring it back to the EC for discussion. I'm very grateful that I had someone who actually likes doing this kind of work. Many people would not welcome the challenges that he took upon himself. I can assure you, we are fortunate to have Harlan as our next chairman to lead our organization. Harlan has had a very successful calling career. He is able to call and teach programs from basic through C4. He is a gifted educator. Last but not least, Mr. Bob Riggs. I was fortunate to have Bob on the EC. Another fine caller and leader in his area of the country, Bob always brought a clear and concise point of view to our discussions. Bob would always be able to read what was written by the EC members and give a professional opinion to the situation. His professional viewpoints that he brought to the EC were very much needed and welcomed. Whenever he was asked to put yet another project on his plate, he always accepted it and delivered a polished paper or opinion on the project. Bob brought wisdom and common sense to the EC. I've been very fortunate to have Bob on my EC. In conclusion, it was a well-rounded EC with calling expertise from community dance to the high challenge programs. We worked very well as a team, and I'm very grateful to have served with such fine individuals and outstanding professionals. And I just want to announce that immediately after the Chairman's Award, you're all invited for a special 2-hour session of the best of the Ed Foot joke tapes, if you'd like to. I hope some of you are laughing, because if you've heard of any of Ed Foot's jokes, you wouldn't be laughing. Only kidding, Ed. I love you. The path forward. Football legend Vince Lombardi once said, "The achievements of an organization are the results of the combined effort of each individual." It is without a doubt that the leaders that blazed the path for the formation of CALLERLAB were individuals who understood the need and the importance of such an organization. It was indeed the combined efforts of all these individuals that created the organization in which the entire square dance world has come to know and rely upon for leadership. These leaders encouraged collaboration and created an atmosphere of teamwork. They provided the necessary structure for everyone to be successful. To this day, we are honored to have some of these leaders with us. If you believe in the success of CALLERLAB from our initial beginnings to our present day, you can thank such leaders as Jim Mayo, John Jones, Melton Luttrell, among others who still are working for our great organization. Effective and successful organizations communicate their values, mission, and goals clearly. These are what some might call its, quote, why. These are key parts of the organization's culture that defines its driving force. The, quote, why regarding the purpose of CALLERLAB coming into existence was to create a more uniform method of communicating and establishing programs and policies for callers and leaders to use worldwide. Many of these original programs and methods still exist today. Successful organizations also have the means to effectively communicate its purpose to the world. Our dance programs are the key vehicle to transport our message to the dancer community. Effective organizations also understand the need for growth. While change is inevitable, the organizations that survive learn to adapt and grow, not only during the good times, but they also learn how to maneuver through the troubled waters. Our entire square dance community worldwide has been dealt a serious blow over the past year. While we are not out of the woods concerning COVID as of yet, there are some promising signs things are turning around. There is a famous Japanese proverb that says, "Fall down 7 times, get up 8. While this past year has certainly seen our activity fall down, it has not deterred the will of the dancers and leaders to get up, quote, that 8th time, if you will. We are all familiar with the saying, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. I believe in the fortitude of our activity that we will endure anything that can and will be placed upon us. Actor Robin Williams once said in his movie Patch Adams, quote, "You fight a disease, you win, you lose. You treat a person, I guarantee you win no matter what the outcome," unquote. I believe how our organization moves forward from the virus is going to have to center on how we treat, quote, the person, how we treat our dancers, how we gather together as one uniformed organization to bring the leadership we have been known for and begin to provide the proper dance programs and support their activity desperately needs at this moment. There has been constant talk this past year among the callers from all over the world, trying to decipher what our activity will look like once things return to, quote, normal. Many have said we most likely have to start over. Some have said we probably have lost 50% of our dancers. Many of us really don't have a crystal clear picture as of yet what the landscape will look like once the smoke clears. But what we will have, and what is still embedded in our DNA, is the desire to provide the best dancing programs we can to ensure those dancers that remain and those who yet to enter that we will have a quality product. I'm not sure about you, but I'm not ready to concede to the turmoil that has surrounded the activity this past year. Square dancers, callers, cuers are all very resilient when it comes to adversity. It is our human nature to be effervescent and positive when we go about our daily lives. It is these traits we bring with us to this activity we so dearly love. It is this drive and energy that will propel us to come out of our situation even stronger. So you may ask, where do we go from here? The future landscape of our activity will largely depend on how we perceive our actions moving forward as either status quo or decisive. Sometimes there are benefits to take a few steps back, reevaluate a situation, and begin to move forward with new and fresh ideas. One of these new ideas that has come out of this terrible situation is the fact that our activity requires us to finally recognize we need a shorter entry-level program, one which could be the ultimate landing spot for new dancers. The social square dancing, SSD, experimental teaching lessons has emerged as a serious and solid means to help amass a greater quantity of new dancers. Another teaching system that's gained some popularity is the condensed teaching method, or CTM. This has proven to be successful as well in some areas of the country. Efforts have been made throughout the past few years to come up with additional means in which to help grow the activity. The individuals who have worked hard on these systems are to be commended for their efforts. CALLERLAB membership will have the opportunity to vote, making SSD a recognized formal dance program within the next week or so. We are at a crossroad for the activity. The decision on whether or not SSD becomes a formalized program will now be in the hands of our voting members. Is SSD for everyone? Probably not, but it could give us another tool in our toolbox to reach new dancers and help perpetuate at least the belief that there are other means in which to reach our aspirations for a solid and rewarding activity. The beauty of CALLERLAB and our programs is that they are tried and true and have been successful to varying degrees over time. Our activity is literally a worldwide activity. We must be cognizant of what other countries are doing, and we must never forget that we, as an organization, cannot impose our beliefs from one country onto another when it comes to beginner dance lessons or any dance program. For those countries that are successfully using our existing basic and mainstream programs, I commend you. You know the quote, if it's not broke, don't fix it, as the saying goes. Unfortunately, we don't exist in a perfect square dance world, and it will take new and different programs moving forward to help assist those areas of the world that might need guidance and help. George Bernard Shaw once said, quote, those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything, end quote. We are starting to see a mind change in some parts of the world in regards to a shorter time frame for beginner lessons. I cannot speak for the entire world, but I can see a culture change within the United States when it comes to providing a quicker learn to dance program. For so long, we have been stagnant when it comes to recognizing the issues we are facing. The world is changing, and our activity needs to not only realize that, but also have the fortitude to make the necessary changes for a better tomorrow. Minds are changing, and with that will come a new and refreshed vision, an openness to admit individually we may not have all the answers, but collectively we can come together to pursue a positive outlook. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it has shown just how vulnerable we are as human beings to something outside of our control. Square dancing is no different than many of the activities we enjoy. All of these functions have been devastated. Square dancing has lost so many loved ones, either on our personal lives or within the activity. We have lost some great leaders. I don't know about you, but I'm getting tired of sending out sympathy cards. But to understand where we need to go, we must also understand where we have been. One of the many inspirations of forming CALLERLAB officially in 1974 was the idea of callers working together to help not only grow the activity, but also give substance to the formation of recognized dance programs. I quote from our own website: "With intensity of purpose, CALLERLAB extended its horizons and set out to provide a framework that would result in callers working closely together. By so doing, they would accomplish goals that none of them could accomplish by working alone." End quote. I believe the key to the future success of our activity is that we, as leaders, do need to come together, try as best to put aside our differences, and begin to work together just as the founding fathers of CALLERLAB believed in. Utilizing the programs we now have, or any future ones we might acquire, is important, but it is not the only venue that we will need in order to be successful coming out of COVID. I quote once again from George Bernard Shaw, who said, quote, "Life isn't always about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself," end quote. Through our history and our great leadership, all the way from CALLERLAB's beginning to our present day leaders, we've done a pretty good job of finding ourselves. I believe because of the shutdown we have endured the past year, we are now at that crossroad in which we have the opportunity to forge ahead and recreate ourselves with what could be long-lasting consequences, hopefully for the better. We have the opportunity to create something positive, and it would behoove us to learn from our past mistakes in order to be successful at this crucial time. This creation is very much needed, and COVID, fortunately or unfortunately, has provided for us this moment. How we deal with this opportunity moving forward is entirely up to us. CALLERLAB is much more than a list of dance programs. Our organizations consist of the best and the brightest individuals from all over the world. We share a common goal: to educate the public with our dancing that we understand and love. Our organization has come a long way since its inception. We are no different than any other organization in regards to growth and changes. We have tripped and fallen down a few times. CALLERLAB cannot nor will ever be everything to everyone. I wish it were so. And with perhaps some light at the end of the pandemic tunnel, we have this fantastic opportunity to establish perhaps, quote, a new beginning. We should welcome back with open arms all of our dancers and ensure that they have the best time of their lives since they last danced. I find it refreshing that there have been small parts of the world that has kept dancing. Unfortunately, the majority of us have not been so lucky. Now more than ever, we need to utilize the information that our brand new website has showcased. I would like to highlight the wealth of information in the knowledge database, which is available for everyone. Hundreds and hundreds of articles and documents that everyone from around the world has access to. I want to commend Barry Clasper for his efforts in making this happen, a tremendous feat. I urge all of you to become familiar with the new website, as it holds a treasure of information we can all use. I also want to urge all of us to be thankful for what we have accomplished, despite the setbacks we've endured. We need to make use of not only the existing programs, but also any of the experimental teach systems, and should SSD become a formal program, that we use that to our advantage in growing the activity. Every one of us shares a common goal, and that is to help our activity grow and prosper. We will never move forward if we keep looking back. I majored in secondary education English during college. I was a fond reader of many famous authors and poets. I would like to leave you with a part of poet Alfred Lloyd Tennyson's poem called Ulysses. Though much is taken, much abides. And though we are not now that strength in which old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. We will remain, quote, CALLERLAB strong as we forge ahead with our efforts to become an even greater organization than we already are. I believe the activity, with all of us working together for the greater good, will not yield, but will be, quote, strong in will. From our past to our future, we shall remain one in dignity, honor, and strength. It is that strength that ultimately will define what square dancing will be. It has been my greatest honor to have served CALLERLAB for the past 2 years as chairman. I'll be turning over the reins to a new leader, one I call my friend. Harlan Kerr is not only a smart, dedicated, and successful man in life, but also a caller and leader in activity. I know you will support him as he continues to lead our great organization down the road to further success. And all that is left to say is thank you.